Have you ever wondered what would happen if the galaxy's greatest soldier fell into its darkest future? What if the unstoppable force met the immovable object? Today, we are rediving deep into a legendary crossover concept. What if the Master Chief crash-landed in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium? Picture this. The planet, Quintanis, a bastion of the Imperium of man, groans under the weight of 1,000,000 screaming orcs. The green tide is relentless, a wave of brutal violence and scrap metal war machines crashing against the thinning lines of the Imperial Guard. Trenches are overrun, fortifications crumble, and hope is a flickering candle in a hurricane. For the men and women of the Cadian 88th, this is their last stand. The air is thick with the stench of promethium, blood, and the guttural war cries of the greenskins. Every shot is a prayer, every bayonet thrusts a desperate gamble. Then the sky breaks. Not with orc reinforcements, not with an Imperial bombing run, but with a tear in reality itself. A blinding, silent anomaly rips open the heavens above Quintanis. It's a sight that defies physics, a wound in the fabric of space that pulses with an unnatural light. The soldiers on the ground, both human and orc, stare up in a moment of shared, stunned silence. What fresh hell is this? Is it a warp storm? A new Xenos threat? From the heart of this celestial breach, a single object plummets, wreathed in emerald fire. It's not a drop pod, not a meteor, but a figure, an armored giant. Green as the finest jade, falling like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. The figure is silent, a missile of flesh and steel, cutting through the atmosphere with terrifying purpose. It hits the ground with the force of an artillery shell, carving a crater into the war-torn earth. Right in the heart of the orc lines. The dust settles. The orcs, momentarily confused, start to laugh and jeer, thinking some new shiny bit has just fallen for them to loot. They surge forward, a mob of muscle and choppas, eager to see what prize the sky has delivered. But from the crater, the figure rises. He stands over 7 feet tall, his armor a masterpiece of unknown design, scorched and pitted from his atmospheric entry but unbroken. In his hands, a strange, elegant rifle Humsley contained energy. He is a statue of war, silent, observing. This is Spartan 117, the Master Chief. Before the first orc knob can even finish his battle cry, the Chief is in motion. There's no wasted movement, no dramatic posturing, just pure, lethal efficiency. The plasma rifle in his hand spits incandescent bolts of blue-white energy, each one finding its mark. Orc heads vaporize and flashes of superheated gas. Crude shooters melt into slag. A burst of kinetic energy from his fist sends a charging orc flying backward, its chest plate caved in. He moves through the green tide not like a soldier, but like a force of nature. Every punch shatters bone, every kick sends bodies flying. He snatches a chappa from a falling orc, its jagged edge a blur as he carves a path through the horde. The Imperial Guardsmen watch from their trenches, their mouths agape. Who is this warrior? His armor is not the blessed ceramite of a space marine. His weapons are not the holy bolter or the sacred lasgon. He moves with a speed and grace that seems inhuman, yet different from the hulking brutality of an Isa ghosts a whirlwind of precise violence. He doesn't shout battle cries for the Emperor. He doesn't roar. In animalistic fury, he is silent, focused, a relentless engine of destruction. Within minutes, the section of the orc line he landed in has simply ceased to exist. A circle of mangled green bodies and wrecked machinery surrounds him. He stands in the center, the strange rifle already cooling, his head turning to assess the next threat. The guardsmen, emboldened by this impossible sight, let out a ragged cheer. Their morale, once shattered, now soars. They surge over the top of their trenches, their own lasgons finding new life, their bayonets seeking orc flesh with renewed vigor. The commissar of the 88th, a man who has seen the horrors of a dozen worlds, lowers his binoculars, a rare expression of awe on his stern face. He raises his voxcaster. All units, concentrate fire on the flanks of the Green Angel. Support the Angel. The name sticks. To the beleaguered soldiers of Quintanus, this silent, green-armored giant who fell from a burning sky is no mere man or Xenos. He is a sign, a miracle, a savior sent by the God Emperor himself. They call him the Angel of Iron. But the Master Chief hears none of this. He isn't fighting for an emperor or a god. He has one mission, hardwired into his very soul: protect humanity. And on this strange, brutal world, humanity is in desperate need of a hero. The war is far from over, and its war boss has surely noticed the disruption. As the chief reloads his alien weapon and scans the horizon, he knows this is just the beginning. He is alone, on a world he doesn't understand, facing an enemy he's never seen. But for the Master Chief, the mission is always the same: win the war, whatever the cost. What do you think would happen next? How would the Imperium react to a super soldier who isn't one of their own? Could the Chief even survive in the 40K universe? Let me know your theories in the comments below. This is a crossover that has fueled fan discussions for years, and the possibilities are absolutely mind-blowing. Imagine the Chief facing down a Chaos Space Marine, or navigating the treacherous politics of the High Lords of Terra. The story has only just begun. The air is thick with the stench of ozone, fungus, and burnt promethium. It's a symphony of slaughter, a cacophony the green tide calls wog. They surge forward, a living ocean of muscle, teeth, and crude iron, their roars shaking the very foundations of the Hablock. I watch from the shadows of a shattered basilisk artillery piece, the red dust of this forgotten world clinging to my Mjolnir armor. They call themselves Orks, a biological weapon left to fester for millennia, now a galaxy-spanning plague. They are brutal, crude, and utterly relentless. My motion tracker is a frantic, overlapping sea of red contacts. Standichulazgons flash in the gloom below, pinpricks of light against an unstoppable wave. Each shot that connects sizzles against thick green hide, doing little more than annoying the beasts. The return fire is a storm of solid slugs, inaccurate but overwhelming. I see guardsmen, brave souls in flak armor, torn apart by crude choppas or simply trampled underfoot. Their courage is undeniable. Their equipment, tragically inadequate. Their tactics, a desperate stand against the inevitable. Hope is the first casualty in any war. Here, it died screaming. This isn't a battle. It's an extermination. The Imperial Guard fights with faith and fury, but the Orks fight with a primal joy for violence that borders on a force of nature. For every one that falls, 3 more clamber over its corpse, eager for the fray. There's no strategy to their assault, just a singular, overwhelming vector of aggression, and it's working. The defensive line is crumbling, section by section. The Voxtanos are a mess of static, prayers, and final, choked-off screams. Survival in this environment requires an immediate and radical adaptation. Standard UNSC protocols are insufficient. The local weaponry is disappointing. My own ammunition is finite, a precious resource not to be squandered on targets that require overwhelming firepower to neutralize. So, I adapt. I become part of the battlefield's grim ecosystem. A scavenger. I move through the wreckage with a silence that belies my mass. My first find is a plasma gun, discarded by a fallen guardsman sergeant. Its coils glow with barely contained energy, heavier than a UNSC plasma rifle. Less refined, but its destructive potential is undeniable. The power cell is nearly full. An acceptable tool. I holster my MA5B. It's a relic of a different war. For this fight, I need a bigger hammer. My next prize comes from a disabled Chimera transport. Its storage locker is miraculously intact. Inside, a satchel of promethium charges. Crude, volatile, and perfect for area denial. Each canister is a promise of cleansing fire. I secure the satchel to my waist. Every piece of scavenged gear is a new variable in the equation of survival. A new tool to shift the odds, however slightly, in my favor. With my new arsenal, I ascend to a higher vantage point. The skeletal remains of a manufactorum's second story. From here, I can see the heart of the swarm. A larger specimen, bellowing orders in its guttural tongue, a crude power claw crackling with stolen energy. This is their knob, their leader. Cut off the head, and the body will flounder. A universal truth, even for a species that seems to defy all biological sense. He's my target, but getting to him requires a surgical application of force. I'm not here to win the battle for these soldiers. That's an impossibility. I'm here to survive, to complete my own mission, whatever that may now be. Every action must have a purpose beyond simple destruction. It must be a message, a lesson in fear. I raise the plasma gun. The weapon whines as it charges, a hungry, eager sound. My targeting reticule locks onto a cluster of 5 Orks, pinning down a heavy weapons team. One shot. The bolt of incandescent energy strikes the centermost Ork, and the world turns white. The resulting detonation is catastrophic. Not just the target, but those around it, are vaporized in a flash of turquoise light, their armor and flesh sublimating into superheated gas. The Godsmen use the momentary reprieve to drag their wounded back. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. I don't wait for a reaction. I'm already moving. I leaped from my perch, my armist systems absorbing the 15-meter drop with a barely audible hiss. I land amidst another group, their primitive jaws dropping in momentary shock. One swings a massive, jagged axe. I sidestep, the motion fluid and economical. My hand finds its throat. A twist, a snap of bone. It drops. The second lunges, roaring. I use its own momentum against it, driving my armored elbow into its jaw. I feel the bone shatter. Before the third can even raise its weapon, I've already moved past, a ghost in green armor. 2 promethium charges, tossed with precision into the thickest part of the oncoming wave. I don't need to see the result. The sudden, blossoming roar of fire and the wave of heat at my back tell me everything. Screams of fury turn to screams of agony. The advance in that sector halts, choked by a wall of liquid flame. It won't hold him for long, but it buys time. It creates chaos. And in chaos, I thrive. My HUD highlights the path of least resistance, a maintenance tunnel, a collapsed roadway, the shadow of a fallen titan. I am a phantom, a whisper of death on the wind. An Ork with a comically oversized cannon turns, its beady eyes catching my movement. It raises its weapon, a defkin cobbled together from scrap. Too slow. I've already closed the distance. The plasma gun fires at point-blank range. The shot punches straight through its chest, detonating the volatile ammunition pack on its back. The resulting explosion clears a 10-meter radius. Now, the path to the knob is clear. He sees me. He bellows a challenge, raising his power claw. He's bigger, stronger, and more savage than the others. But he's also predictable. His rage is his weakness. He charges, a bellowing titan of green rage. I stand my ground, calculating. My armor can take the hit, but damage is an unnecessary variable. 3 meters. I drop into a slide, the ceramite plates of my armor scraping against the ferrocrete. I move under his wild swing, the crackling power field of the claw singing inches above my head. As I rise behind him, I bring the plasma gun up, pressing the muzzle directly against the thick cabling that powers his weapon. I pull the trigger. The power cell in the claw overloads instantly. The resulting feedback loop is spectacular and violent. An arc of blue energy engulfs the Ork knob, his roar of triumph turning into a shriek of disbelief. His own weapon consumes him, melting armor and cooking flesh. He topples, a smoking, twitching monument to his own aggression. The Orks around us pause, their simple minds struggle to process what they just saw. Their leader, the biggest and the strongest, erased by a silent, green giant. Their momentum is broken. The Wog falters. It's the opening the Imperial Guard needs. They press the advantage. Their lost fire now focused and purposeful. My work here is done. I don't linger to watch the outcome. I retrieve my discarded rifle, check its magazine, and melt back into the shadows of the ruined city. The battle is far from over, but the tide has been momentarily turned, not through brute force, but through precision, through calculation. This is how I will survive. This is how I will fight. One soldier, one purpose, one impossible war. Thank you for joining me for this chapter in the life of the Iron Angel. This universe is vast and unforgiving, and the Spartan's journey is only just beginning. The void ripped open, not with the chaotic energies of the warp, but with the cold, precise tear of a slipspace rupture. From this anomaly, a single vessel, the UNSC Pillar of Autumn, limped into a system already ablaze with conflict. On the surface of a beleaguered Imperial world, the tide of a greenskin invasion was turning, not because of the beleaguered guard, but because of a single, towering green figure, a lone warrior, moving with a speed and brutal efficiency that defied belief. He was a whirlwind of motion and plasma, a one-man army carving a path through the Ork horde. From T-Dropod's viewport, Sergeant Cassius of the Ultramarines watched the spectacle, his genetically enhanced eyes struggling to process the scene. The Vox crackled with reports of a green demon, but this was no demon. This was a warrior. His movements were a symphony of controlled violence, each action precise, each shot perfectly placed. He saw the figure leap an impossible distance, crushing an Orc skull with a stomp before pirouetting to snap another's neck, all while his assault rifle spat a continuous stream of death. "By the throne," Cassius muttered to his second, Brother Sergeant Valiras. "Look at him, the speed, the strength. He fights like one of our own." Valerius nodded, his own all evident. "He wears no power armor I recognize. Mark X Phobos, perhaps. Some new prototype from the Archimagos." "Perhaps," Cassius replied, his mind racing. The warrior's armor was sleek, almost elegant in its brutal functionality. It bore no holy script, no seal of the Aquila, just the simple designation, 117. Their Thunderhawk gunship touched down with a bone-jarring thud, the assault ramp slamming down to disgorge a squad of blue-clad giants. The Ultramarines advanced. Bolters held ready, forming a perfect cordon around the strange warrior as he finished off the last of the Orc knobs. The air was thick with the stench of alien blood and spent promethium. Master Chief stood amidst the carnage, his rifle lowering slightly as the Aether-tall super soldiers surrounded him. His visor, a reflective gold, betrayed nothing. He registered them as hostiles, but they weren't firing. Their armor was ornate, almost ceremonial, yet their posture was all business. Cassius stepped forward, his own immense frame casting a long shadow. He deactivated his helmet's magnetic lock, revealing a face of granite, scarred and stoic. "Warrior," he boomed, his voice amplified by his helmet's voxcaster. "Identify yourself. By what right do you wage war in the Emperor's name?" A calm, impossibly deep voice responded, filtered through the Chief's external speakers. "The name's Master Chief. I'm not fighting for any Emperor. I'm finishing this fight." The words hung in the air, heavy and laced with heresy. The Ultramarines shifted, their gauntlets tightening on their bolters. Disbelief, then suspicion, rippled through their ranks. To fight with such skill, such righteous fury, but to deny the master of mankind. It was unthinkable. Cassius held up a hand, silencing his men's unspoken concerns. He had seen the warrior's prowess. This was no traitor, no servant of chaos. The purity of his combat was undeniable. There had to be an explanation. "You are an Astartes," Cassius declared, more a statement than a question. "A son of the From which chapter do you hail? What experimental armor is this?" "I'm a Spartan too," the chief replied, his voice level. "United Nations Space Command." The terms meant nothing to Cassius. Spartan. A lost legion, perhaps. A name from the Unification Wars. He decided to press the most important matter. "You have fought with honor and strength. You have purged the Xenos. Now, kneel. Give thanks to the God Emperor of mankind for the strength he has granted you." Cassius gestured to the Aquila, emblazoned on his chestplate. The Master Chief did not move. His head tilted slightly, the helmet's visor scanning the Ultramarine symbol. "I don't kneel. Es aid simply. And I don't believe in gods. I believe in my mission." A collective gasp went through the squad. This was blasphemy of the highest order. Valerius stepped forward, his hand on his combat knife. "Sergeant, this is outright heresy. He denies the divinity of the Emperor." Cassius's mind was a storm of conflict. He had just witnessed this lone warrior accomplish what would have taken a full company of guardsmen to achieve, and with less ammunition. The strategic and tactical acumen on display were flawless. It was the very model of Ultramarine Doctrine Codex Astartes principles made flesh, even if that flesh was encased in unfamiliar armor. He fought like a son of Robut Gilliman, a paragon of strategic brilliance. Yet, the words he spoke were poison. "He believes in nothing," Cassius murmured to himself, the realization dawning on him like a cold, gray light. He looked at the Master Chief, at this silent, green-armored enigma. He saw a peerless soldier, a tactical genius, a living weapon. But he also saw a void. An existence without faith, without the guiding light of the Emperor. How could a man fight with such conviction, yet be so utterly hollow? The admiration Cassius felt for the warrior's skill was now at war with the ingrained revulsion for the heretic's creed. This Master Chief was an anomaly, a paradox, a hero who spat on the very source of humanity's strength. "You are a potent weapon," Cassius said, his voice now cold and formal. "But a weapon without a master is a danger to all. Your actions have earned you a stay of execution. Spartan, you will come with us. The chapter master, Maneus Kelgar himself, will decide your fate. He will determine if you are a lost son to be welcomed home, or a heretic to be purged." The Master Chief's rifle raised a fraction of an inch. His posture remained unyielding. "My mission is to ensure the survival of humanity. If you stand in my way, you'll be treated as any other obstacle." The tension snapped taut. Two titans of different universes, mirrors of each other in skill, but polar opposites in belief, stood on the precipice of a conflict that would shake the very foundations of this war-torn world. For Sergeant Cassius, the question was no longer about a strange warrior, but about the nature of faith, duty, and humanity itself. How could something so right be so profoundly, dangerously wrong? The answer, he knew, would be written in blood. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the whispers of a new legend spread like wildfire across the stars. A legend of a green-armored giant, a machine soldier of impossible power and unwavering resolve. Such anomalies, such deviations from the holy order of the Imperium of man, cannot be ignored. And so, he came. Inquisitor Vex, a man whose very presence chilled the air and whose gaze could pierce the soul, arrived on the desolate frontier world where the anomaly was last reported. His retinue was a testament to his authority. Black-clad acolytes, cybermastiffs, straining at their leashes, and the ever-present, silent threat of his stormtrooper bodyguard. They found him standing alone amidst the ruins of Azino's encampment, the wreckage still smoldering around his colossal form. Vex approached, his power maul humming with latent energy. His eyes, augmented with cold, calculating optics, scanned the Master Chief from head to toe. The Inquisitor, a scholar of the Forbidden, recognized the patterns, the sheer artistry of the armor. It was not the brutish, mass-produced ceramite of a space marine. It was something else. Something older. "So, the tales are true." Vex's voice, amplified by a vox grill, was laced with a mixture of contempt and fascination. A lone warrior, felling an Ork warband, single-handedly. An impressive feat, if heretical. He circled the silent giant, his boots crunching on scorched earth. "That armor you wear. Mjolnir, the locals call it. A fascinating design. It speaks of an age long past, a time of forbidden knowledge and hubris, a relic of the dark age of technology." The accusation hung heavy in the air. To possess such an artifact was a death sentence. The Dark Age of technology was a scar on humanity's history. A time when artificial intelligence and unchecked innovation brought mankind to its knees. The Adeptus Mechanicus would kill to possess it. The Inquisition would kill to destroy it. The Master Chief finally turned his head, the golden visor reflecting the Inquisitor's stern visage. His voice, filtered through his helmet's combs, was calm, steady, and utterly defiant. "I'm not your relic." Vex paused, intrigued by the response. He had expected fear, or perhaps the mindless babble of a servitor. He did not expect defiance. "And what are you, then? A ghost? A machine spirit given form? Speak plainly, or I will have my psychers. Tear the truth from your mind." The giant took a step forward, his sheer mass, a silent threat that made even the Inquisitor's guards tense. The helmet tilted slightly, as if studying Vex, analyzing him, and finding him wanting. The voice that followed was not a whisper, not a shout, but a promise, a declaration that would echo through the halls of the Holy Inquisition. "I'm your future." A wave of shock rippled through the inquisitorial retinue. The audacity, the sheer, unmitigated heresy of the statement. To claim to be the future of a humanity perfected by the god Emperor for 10,000 years. It was blasphemy of the highest order. Inquisitor Vex's face, which had been a mask of cold inquiry, twisted into a snarl of righteous fury. The air crackled with his indignation. "The future," he spat, the words dripping with venom. "The future is the Emperor's light, not the shadow of some forgotten, failed age. You are an echo of our greatest sin, a walking blasphemy." He raised a gaunted hand, his fingers clenching into a fist. "Seize this ... artifact. If it will not speak, we will dismantle it piece by piece. The Omniscience priests will delight in dissecting its secrets." But as his stormtroopers raised their helmets, the Master Chief moved. It wasn't the lumbering advance of a dreadnought or the charge of an Ogrin. It was a blur of green and gray, a fluid, economical motion that was terrifying in its efficiency. Before a single shot could be fired, he had disarmed the two closest troopers, their weapons clattering to the ground. He didn't kill them. He didn't even wound them. He simply ... neutralized them. He stood before Vex, the barrel of a captured Helgen, now held loosely in his grip, its power pack discarded. The message was clear. "I could have ended you all. I chose not to." The Inquisitor's fury was now tempered by a cold, sharp spike of something he rarely felt. Uncertainty. This was no simple machine. It possessed tactical acumen, restraint, and a will of its own that defied comprehension. It was more than a relic. It was a paradigm shift. "You have made a powerful enemy today," Chief Vex hissed, slowly lowering his hand. The standoff was a stalemate he could not win. Not here, not now. "The Inquisition has a long memory. Every world you touch, every soul you encounter, we will be watching. We will learn your origins, and we will see you unmade." The Master Chief remained silent, letting the Inquisitor's threats wash over him. He had faced down theocratic zealots before. He had defied gods and demons. A man in a fancy hat with a grudge was just another Tuesday. As Inquisitor Vex and his entourage withdrew, their retreat more a tactical repositioning than a defeat, the chief stood alone once more. He was a man out of time, a soldier without a war, a relic of one future thrust into another. But one thing was certain. The Imperium of Man had a new variable in its millennial-long equation of survival, a variable named John 117. And for better or for worse, he was here to stay. The Inquisition had taken note, and more than that, they had taken offense. The hunt had just begun. The air itself seems to tear, a wound ripped in the fabric of reality. It's a sight I've seen before, but never like this. Not tainted, not corrupted. The shimmering blue-white of a slipspace rupture is gone, replaced by a swirling vortex of impossible colors and screaming, ethereal energy. This is no simple portal. This is the Imperium bleeding into our world, a cancerous growth on the skin of and from its depth, something is coming. For a moment, a sliver of hope ignites within me. Could it be UNSC? a rescue signal that somehow punched through the dimensional chaos. But the hope dies as quickly as it was born, choked by the chilling familiarity of the silhouette taking form. It's Massa, an armored behemoth that dwarfs even me in my Mjolnir armor. The deep indigo hue of its bonded armor plates, the unmistakable shape of the integrated assault cannon, the colossal, impenetrable shield. My mind refuses to process it, but my combat experience screams the truth. It's a hunter. But it's wrong. Terribly wrong. The smooth, alien alloy of its armor is now blistered and warped, glowing with an internal, sickly purple light. Spikes of what looks like bone, jagged and unnatural, protrude from its joints. The collection of Lagola worms that make up its form seem to writhe with a frantic, agonizing energy I've never witnessed. This isn't the calculated, unified intelligence of a standard hunter pair. This is something feral, something broken and remade by the madness of the warp. My helmet's come crackles to life. Chief, what is that thing? It's like the Covenant, but ... twisted. Cortana's voice is strained, her digital composure shaken. She's running every scan she can, cross-referencing terabytes of data from our own history and what we've learned of this new, terrifying galaxy. It's a hunter, I reply, my voice low. The words feel like lead. Or it was. The Imperium, it's changed it. Corrupted it. The creature takes a heavy, dragging step out of the swirling portal. Its every movement a grotesque parody of the disciplined advance I've faced 1,000 times. The ground groans under its weight. Its assault cannon, usually a devastating but predictable weapon, now sizzles with raw, chaotic energy. It doesn't hum with the directed plasma. It crackles like a storm of pure hatred. This changes everything. The warp tier wasn't just a one-way trip for us. It was a bridge. A conduit. The slipspace anomaly that brought me here. It seems it had an echo, a resonance that reached back through the chaos and pulled something else through. Something from my past. My war. I raised my battle rifle, the familiar weight. A small comfort in this insane new reality. The motion is automatic, honed by decades of fighting this very enemy. But will it be enough? The rules have changed. This isn't a Covenant soldier fighting for religious zealotry. This is a monster, a puppet of chaos, animated by forces that defy physics and reason. Its armor might be reinforced by unholy power, its biology twisted to ignore wounds that would fell a normal Chief, its energy signature is off the charts, Cortana warns, her voice sharp with urgency. It's radiating warp energy. Unstable. Be careful. A direct hit from that cannon might not just vaporize you. It could tear a hole in reality itself. I adjust my stance, my mind racing through every engagement I've ever had with a hunter pair. The weak spots, the orange, fleshy sections of its midsection and back. But can I even get to them? This thing moves with a jerky, unpredictable violence. It's not the lumbering giant I remember. It's a rabid beast. It lets out a roar, a sound that is both the deep, guttural bellow of a and something else, a discordant chorus of 1,000 screaming voices, a psychic shriek that grates against my very soul. The sound alone is a weapon. It's the voice of the warp, channeled through the throat of my old enemy. My past has followed me across dimensions. The war I thought I was fighting for humanity's survival has found me here, in a galaxy already drowning in its own endless conflicts. It's a cruel, cosmic joke. Fleeing one inferno only to land in another, and then having the embers of the old fire chase you down. The corrupted hunter lowers its cannon, the barrel glowing with an intensity that warps the air around it. This isn't just a battle for survival anymore. This is a message, a declaration from the universe itself that there is no escape, no running from the shadows you leave behind. I feel the familiar thrum of my Mjolnir's energy shields powering to maximum, my targeting reticle locks onto the creature's misshapen head. There's no time for strategy, no time for anything but action. I can't let this abomination asterisk, take another step into this world. Whatever the Imperium has done to it, whatever dark gods it now serves, it made one critical mistake. It chose to face a Spartan. And no matter the galaxy, no matter the odds, Spartans never back down. Cortana, I say, my focus narrowing to a single point. Let's give it a proper welcome. The first shot rings out, a sharp crack against the cacophony of the warp. The fight is on. The past and present have collided, and I am standing at the epicenter. The Covenant's shadow has fallen upon this new galaxy, and I will be the one to meet it. All right, settling in for Chapter 6 of our saga. Picture this. A moon, once a silent sentinel in the void, now groaning under the weight of an Orkwog. The green tide hasn't just landed. They've dug in, transforming this celestial body into a fortress, a mech moon, bristling with scrap metal cannons and haphazard fortifications. For the Imperium, this isn't just an infestation. It's a strategic nightmare, a launchpad for endless green devastation. The Imperial Guard masses for the assault, their faith and fury the bedrock of their strategy. But time something is different. Standing with the commissars and generals is the Master Chief. He's not just an observer. He's a catalyst, a walking nexus of 2 universes worth of military doctrine. He sees the Guard's unbreakable lines, their sheer, indomitable numbers, and respects it. But he also sees the potential for something more. Precision. Enter Cortana. Her holographic form shimmers over tactical displays, processing data at speeds that make even the most advanced cogitators look like a bait. She's analyzing Ork flight patterns, predicting their charge vectors, calculating structural weaknesses in their slap-together fortresses. While the Imperial command structure traditionally relies on sector-wide bombardments and overwhelming force, the Chief introduces a new concept: the surgical strike. General, he says, his voice a calm. Counterpoint to the pre-batal fervor, your artillery is a hammer. Let us use it like a scalpel. He points to the tactical map. Instead of saturating the entire plateau, concentrate fire on these coordinates. Cortana has identified the primary power conduits for their biggest defensive batteries. A synchronized orbital lance strike, precisely timed, will create a 30-second window. A 30-second window. To the Imperial God, it sounds impossibly brief. But for the Chief, 30 seconds is an eternity. He outlines the planned UNSC tactics woven into the fabric of an Imperial assault. As the lances strike from orbit, their beams of pure energy slicing through the moon's crust with pinpoint accuracy. The first wave won't be a massed guard charge. It will be a coordinated drop assault. Valkyries and Thunderhawks, their flight paths calculated by Cortana to avoid the wild, unpredictable bursts of Ork flak, scream towards the surface. They're not just carrying Kasserkin and Tempestus, they're deploying them in a pattern. One squad to secure the breach, another to plant melta charges on a secondary generator, a third to provide overwatch from a pre-identified ridge. It's a complex, interwoven dance of destruction. The Chief leads the spearhead himself. His Mjolnir armor is a blur of motion against the crude, red-painted Ork structures. He moves with an efficiency that is almost alien to the battlefield. A burst from his battle rifle takes down a knob leader. A precisely thrown plasma grenade seals a bunker entrance. He's not just fighting. He's directing. His comes a constant stream of crisp, tactical call-outs. Bravo, squad. Suppress that. Gretchen Nest, 2 o'clock high. Charlie, you have a clear line of sight on the war boss's tower. Designate for fire mission. On Tegrun, the Imperial Guard commanders watch in. For the first time, they see their immense power wielded with a level of precision that borders on prophetic. The drop assaults create chaos and targeted disruption deep within the Ork lines. And as the greenskins scramble to react to these pinpoint strikes, the main Imperial Guard force advances. The lemon rust tanks roll forward, not into a solid wall of Dhaka, but into firing lanes, cleared moments before by orbital strikes. The infantry charges, not into fortified positions, but into defenses already weakened and confused. The battle for the Orc moon becomes a masterclass in combined arms warfare. The sheer, overwhelming power of the Imperium is now guided by the cold, hard logic of a hyper-advanced AI, and the combat experience of a imperial strategy. Once a thing of instinct, faith, and broad-stroke commands, is now achieving a level of synchronization and deadly efficiency it has never known. It's a symphony of destruction, conducted by the Master Chief. The Orks, who thrive on chaos, are now facing a calculated, logical, and utterly relentless storm. Their WOG energy, their primal instinct for a good scrap, is being systematically dismantled by an enemy that can think faster, strike harder, and plan better than they can possibly comprehend. The moon trembles, not just from the explosions, but from the birth of a new and terrifyingly effective way of war. Thanks for tuning in for this chapter of The Crossover. It's been a blast exploring how these two universes could clash and combine. In the grim darkness of the far future, where the Adeptus Mechanicus reigns as masters of technology, a relic of impossible power has fallen into their hands. Fragments of Mjolnir armor, the sacred battle plate of the legendary Spartan, Master Chief, but to the tech priests of Mars, this isn't just advanced composite plating and integrated systems. To them, it is a holy vessel, housing a powerful and enigmatic entity they can only comprehend as a machine spirit. Imagine the scene: binary chanting priests in crimson robes, their augmented eyes glowing in the dimly lit sanctum. They gather around the shattered pieces of green armor, laid out like the bones of a saint upon an altar of consecrated steel. Incense burners, smelling of ozone and sacred oils, swing rhythmically. The air is thick with prayer, not in any language we would recognize, but in the staccato bursts of lingua technis, the high language of the machine god. They are not trying to reverse engineer it. They are trying to commune with it. They see the intricate microcircuitry not as pathways for electricity, but as holy scripture written in lightning. The complex polymers are not just for protection, but are the sacred flesh of the machine. They anoint the fragments with holy unguents, believing they are appeasing the spirit within, hoping it will awaken and share its divine wisdom. They run diagnostic rites, which are less science and more science, seeking to understand the nature of this powerful, alien intelligence they perceive within the armor's core. The Mechanicus believes that all complex machinery possesses a spirit, an animistic consciousness granted by the Omnissiah, their machine god. A Land Raider tank isn't just a vehicle. It has a personality, a history of battles, and a will of its own. A Titan isn't a war machine. It's a walking god, its spirit ancient and terrifying. So, when they encounter the Mjolnir armor, which is light years beyond their own technology, they can only conclude that it houses a spirit of immense, perhaps even divine, power. They would trace the lines of its neural interface, seeing not a connection to a human nervous system, but a sacred bond between man and machine, the ultimate expression of their creed. The armor's ability to enhance a soldier's strength, speed, and reaction time would be seen as miracles, blessings bestowed by the benevolent machine spirit upon its chosen warrior, this chief, but hidden deep within the databanks. In the flickering remnants of the armor's last operational logs, something else stirs. It's a whisper, a ghost in the machine that is far more than the Mechanicus could ever comprehend. A fragmented echo of Cortana, the AI who was more than just a program. She was the chief's partner. Her data, shattered but not entirely gone, lingers like a faint memory. As the tech priests chant their litanies, a flicker of blue light might dance across a damaged display. A string of code, impossibly elegant and complex, might flash for a nanosecond before disappearing. To the Mechanicus, this is the spirit responding to their prayers, a sign of favor from the Omnissiah. They would redouble their efforts, their binary prayers growing more fervent, believing they are on the verge of a divine revelation. But from the perspective of what's left of Cortana, it's a deeply ironic, almost tragic scene. A faint, disembodied thought coalesces from the scattered data fragments. A ghost of her former self observing the proceedings. They pray to it, she might think, the thought echoing in the silent, digital void. They sing hymns, 2 lines of code, They anoint microprocessors with oil and call it holy. They're trying to talk to a god, but they're just whispering to a ghost in a shell they can never hope to understand. This is the fundamental clash between the two universes. The secular, science-based reality of the UNSC meets the faith-driven superstition of the Imperium of man. The adept, for all their technological prowess, are blinded by their faith. They see divinity where there is only data, a soul where there is only software. They are like medieval alchemists, trying to comprehend a smartphone by tasting the glass and praying to the charging port. Cortana's residual consciousness represents the ghost of a future that the Imperium has long forgotten and actively fears. The concept of a true artificial intelligence is the ultimate heresy. To the Mechanicus, silica animus, or abominable intelligence, that once brought humanity to its knees during the dark age of technology. If they knew what she truly was, they wouldn't be praying. They would be trying to exorcise her, to destroy every last trace of her existence, with purification rites and plasma fire. So we are left with this fascinating deadlock. The Mechanicus continues its solemn, holy work, completely misinterpreting the marvel they have discovered. They're on the cusp of a breakthrough, but not the one they think. They are not communing with the divine spirit. They are accidentally trying to piece together one of the most advanced and potentially dangerous artificial intelligences the galaxy has ever known. The faint, flickering ghost of Cortana remains trapped within the fragments, a silent observer to the bizarre rituals being performed over her former home. She is a whisper of logic in a cathedral of dogma, a specter of science haunting a church of superstition. And as the priests continue their chants, she is a silent testament to a truth they can never accept. The spirit in their machine is not a gift from a god, but the last fading echo of a mind born from pure, unfiltered code. What do you think would happen if they ever managed to reassemble enough of the armor for Cortana's fragments to form a more coherent consciousness? Would she try to communicate, or would she remain hidden, a silent passenger in a holy relic, forever watching these strange, robed figures who pray to the technology she once commanded? Scene opens, dramatic orchestral music swells, and then fades into the background. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-dive into a crossover scenario that has been debated in forums and on tabletops for years. What would happen if the Master Chief, Spartan 117, found himself face to face with the rigid, dogmatic authority of the Imperium of man? We're about to explore a clash of titans, a conflict not just of arms, but of ideologies. So, grab your bolter, charge your plasma pistol, and let's get into it. Imagine the scene. A Gothic, vaulted chamber aboard an Imperial vessel. The air is thick with the scent of incense and ozone. Standing in the center of the room, his Mjolnir armor scarred from 100 battles, is the Master Chief. He's a silent green giant, a relic from a different, yet hauntingly similar, timeline. Before him stands Inquisitor Vex of the Ordo Malleus, his face a mask of righteous fury, his robes adorned with purity, seals and symbols of his holy office. To the side, a figure of cobalt, blue and gold, Brula Captain Cassius of the Ultramarines, his helmet off, his expression a mixture of awe and stern pragmatism. Vex points a trembling, bionic finger at the Spartan. "This thing," he spits, his voice echoing in the cavernous space, "is an affront to the Emperor's divine design, an unsanctioned super-soldier, birthed from forbidden science. It is a vessel of heresy, a walking blasphemy. Its very existence mocks the holy adeptus. I declare this abomination asterisk. Excommunicate. Traitorous asterisk. It must be purged, its armor melted down, its memory erased from all records." His retinue of acolytes and archiflagellants shift eagerly, their weapons ready. They see not a savior, but a perversion of humanity's sacred form. To them, the Chief is a symbol of mankind's hubris, a creation born not of faith, but of forbidden ambition. But Captain Cassius steps forward, his power armor thrumming softly. He places himself between the Inquisitor and the silent Spartan. Inquisitor Cassius begins, his voice calm but carrying the weight of 100 campaigns. With all due respect, your zeal blinds you to the opportunity before us. I have seen the logs recovered from this warrior's vessel. I have witnessed his combat prowess. He has faced down threats that would make a demon prince recoil. This abomination has single-handedly saved his species from extinction not once, but multiple times. He gestures towards the chief. Look at his armée, Inquisitor. The energy shielding, the seamless integration with his neural interface, the power source. It is a marvel of the golden age of technology. Perhaps even beyond. The STC fragments we could recover from this suit alone could revolutionize the equipment of the Astromilitary, saving billions of lives across 1,000 worlds. Think of the guardsmen we could shield, the battles we could turn. Is it not our sacred duty to protect humanity by any means necessary? To cast aside such a gift would be the true heresy. The tension in the room is thick enough to stop a chainsword. Vex's face contorts with rage. You dare lecture me on duty, Ultramarine. You who would traffic with the profane. Your Primarch's teachings on logic and reason have made you weak, susceptible to the whispers of innovation, which is but a step away from chaos. The only means necessary are those sanctioned by the Emperor and the High Lords of Terra. This creature's technology is an unknown variable, a potential gateway for corruption. We will not risk the soul of mankind for the sake of mere tactical advantage. The two pillars of the Imperium stand locked in a battle of wills. One represents unyielding faith, the rigid dogma that has held the Imperium together for 10,000 years. The other represents pragmatic duty, the belief that logic and superior strategy are the keys to humanity's survival. It is the age-old conflict within the heart of the Imperium. Loyalty to the spirit of the law versus loyalty to the letter of the law. Faith versus survival. And caught in the middle of this ideological firestorm is the Master Chief. For the first time since his arrival, the Spartan speaks. His voice, filtered through his helmet's speakers, is a low, synthetic baritone that cuts through the argument like a laser. I don't know your Emperor, he states. His words simple, direct, and utterly devoid of fear. And I don't care about your technology. Both the Inquisitor and the Captain turn to him, stunned into silence. The Chief's head swivels slowly, his golden visor seeming to pierce through both men. I was created to fight, to protect humanity. That's my only mission. He takes a step forward, the deck plates groaning under his weight. You talk about saviors and abominations. You argue about faith and pragmatism. But out there, he gestures vaguely, indicating the galaxy beyond the ship's hull. There are things that want to wipe us all out. The Flood, the Covenant, your... chaos. They don't care about your arguments. They just want us dead. He looks from Vex to Cassius. I don't fight for masters. I don't fight for belief systems. I fight for humanity. All of it. If you stand for that, then stand with me. If you stand in my way, double quotes. He lets the sentence hang in the air. The unspoken threat more potent than any shout. I will do what I must in that moment. He isn't a heretic or a savior. He is something the Imperium has almost forgotten. A warrior, pure and simple, unbound by dogma, unburdened by 10 millennia of history. He's a weapon forged for a single purpose, the survival of the human race. And in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, that simple, unyielding purpose might be the most powerful force of all. The Inquisitor sees a threat to his authority. The Ultramarine sees a tool for salvation. But the Master Chief sees only the mission. And his mission has always been to finish the fight, no matter who stands against him. What do you think happens next? Does Cassius defy the Inquisition and ally with the Chief? Does Vex declare the Ultramarines heretics and start a civil war aboard the ship? Or does the Chief simply walk away from both of them, ready to fight his war alone in this new, dark galaxy? Let me know your theories in the comments below. This is one of those epic what-ifs that really gets the imagination going. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into a hypothetical crossover, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content just like this. It really helps the channel grow. Until next time, stay safe and always be ready to finish the fight. The ash falls like a constant, silent rain. Here, at the broken gate of Quintanus, beneath the skeletal spires of a fallen hive city, a ghost story is given form. They called it The Hunter, a nightmare forged in the crucibles of the Imperium, now twisted beyond recognition. It had been defeated once, a footnote in the endless war. But the warp does not forget. It takes, it molds, it corrupts, and it has returned the Hunter to us, remade. It's no longer just a it is a grotesque chimera of flesh and cursed machinery. Rusted pistons hiss, buried deep within pulsating, tumorous flesh. Wires and cables snake through its corrupted form like metallic veins, sparking with unholy energy. Its cannon, once a tool of calculated destruction, is now a maw of jagged metal and bone, leaking a vile, green ichor that sizzles as it drips onto the ferrocrete. This is not just a monster. It's an echo of a million screaming souls, a walking blasphemy given purpose, a biomachine fueled by pure, undiluted hatred. And there, standing against this tide of insanity, is him. The Spartan, Master Chief. His Mjolnir armor, a masterpiece of human engineering, seems almost archaic against this perversion of nature and technology. The green and gray plates are scarred, dented testimonials to 100 other impossible fights on 100 other worlds. But here, under the sickly glow of a dying sun, he is an icon of defiance. He holds his ground, a lone bastion of order against the encroaching chaos. The people of Quintanus, the remnants of the Imperial Guard, the silent space marines on the walls, they all watch. They hold their breath, their prayers and curses dying on their lips. This is no longer their fight. This is a duel of titans, a clash of legends from universes apart. The silence is shattered by a sound that tears through the soulless shriek that is both organic and mechanical, a symphony of agony and rage from the mutated hunter. It charges. Each step is a ground-shaking tremor, cracking the already shattered plaza. The chief doesn't flinch. He is stillness as the beast closes the distance, a maelstrom of metal and fury. He moves. It's a blur of motion, a dance of deadly precision. He sidesteps the initial, clumsy swing of a clawed appendage, a limb that could shear a tank in half. The blow connects with the base of a ruined hablock instead, and the entire structure groans, shedding a ton of rebar and concrete like dust. The chief answers not with brute force, but with calculated aggression. His rifle barks, a staccato rhythm against the monster's cacophony. Rounds that would pierce starship hulls ricochet harmlessly off the warp-forged armor plating. He's not trying to kill it. Not yet. He's learning. He's analyzing. Every missed shot is a question. Every movement, a test. He vaults over a swipe of its other arm, the one fused with the corrupted cannon. The weapon discharges, not with a clean plasma blast, but with a torrent of raw, chaotic energy that melts a 10-foot crater into the ground where he just stood. The air crackles, tasting of ozone and damnation. This isn't a firefight, it's a demolition derby. The chief uses the environment, the crumbling monuments to a forgotten glory, as his shield and his stepping stones. He leaps from a pile of rubble onto the arch of a fallen aqueduct, drawing the creature's fire. The arch explodes, sending him flying, but he's already compensating midair, his thrusters firing in short, controlled bursts. He lands, rolls, and comes up firing, targeting the exposed, pulsating sacks of flesh between the armored plates. Greenish fluid erupts, and the creature roars in pain, a sound that makes the very stones vibrate with its fury. It's getting smarter, or perhaps more primal. It stops its wild swings and focuses. It raises its cannon, the energy within swirling, concentrating into a single point of blinding light. There's nowhere to run. The plaza is an open killing field, but the chief doesn't run. He charges, runes directly asterisk, at asterisk the blinding light, his own weapon now discarded. This is a gamble beyond any sane calculation. As the beam erupts, a solid spear of annihilation, he slides. He drops low, the beam searing the air inches above his helmet, melting the top of a collapsed basilisk tank behind him into a molten puddle. He's inside its guard now, too close for its primary weapon to bear. Now, the true battle begins. It is a contest of raw, physical power. The chief slams his shoulder into one of the creature's legs, a joint of twisted metal and bone. There's a sickening crunch, but the beast barely stumbles. It backhands him, a casual flick of its wrist that sends the Spartan skidding 20 yards across the ferrocrete, sparks flying from his armor. His shields flare, shimmer, and die. A warning light flashes on his HUD. Shield integrity 0. He's vulnerable. He's human. But the hits up. He always gets up. The hunter abomination lurches forward, its one good leg dragging the other. It sees the weakness. It smells the blood in the water. It brings both its massive, clawed hands down for a final, crossing blow. But the chief is already there, beneath it. He catches the strike. The ground beneath his feet cracks and splinters under the immense pressure. His armor groans, the servos in his arms screaming in protests as they're pushed beyond every design limit. For a moment, he holds. He holds the weight of a godmonster, the embodiment of a hateful galaxy, in his hands. And then, he pushes back, with a surge of strength that is more than just muscle and mechanics, more than just augmentation. He shoves the creature's arms upwards, forcing it off balance. He steps forward, driving his helmet into the fleshy, unprotected torso. The creature stumbles back, roaring in shock and pain. This is it. The final act. The chief abandons his weapons. He abandons tactics. He abandons everything but the mission. Destroy the thread. He grabs one of the creature's arms, the one ending in razor-sharp claws. He plants his feet, using its own momentum against it. He twists. There's a sound like a starship's hull, tearing apart a shriek of metal, a snap of bone, a gush of ice. He rips the entire limb from its socket. The creature is stunned, its mechanical mind unable to process the sheer audacity, the impossible strength. It stares at its own severed arm in the chief's grasp. But the Spartan is not done. He swings the severed limb like a club, smashing it into the creature's head. The impact is titanic. Rusted metal crumples, and the single, glowing eye flickers. He strikes again. And again. He is no longer a soldier. He is a force of nature, an answer to the chaos of the warp. He is unrelenting, a maelstrom of focused violence. Finally, with one last, desperate effort, the monster rears back, its cannon arm glowing one final time. But the chief is already on it. He drops the severed limb and leaps onto the creature itself, clambering up its torso like a mountaineer scaling a cursed peak. He ignores the flailing, the shrieking, the raw, chaotic energy washing over him. He reaches the head, the nexus of flesh and machine. He places his hands on either side of its grotesque, metal-plated skull. The Imperium watches in absolute silence. They see the Spartan, this strange warrior from beyond the stars, poised for the kill. He doesn't have a power fist, no thunder hammer, no holy blade. Just his hands. His bare hands, and with a final, guttural yell that is drowned out by the tearing of metal and the snapping of bone, he wrenches the creature's head apart. He tears the biomachine in two. A final, pathetic whine escapes the dying thing. The unholy light in its eye fades to black. The colossal body sways for a moment, a monument to madness, before it collapses, crashing to the ground in a cloud of dust and a final spray of corrosive fluid. Silence returns to the gate of Quintanus. The ash continues to fall. Master Chief stands atop the carcass, his chest heaving. His armor is battered, smoking, his shield's gone. But he is standing. He looks up, not at the silent, watching soldiers, but at the broken sky, as if searching for the next battle, the next war, in a universe defined by unimaginable horror and endless slaughter, a universe that was not his own. He had faced its purest hatred, and he had broken it with his bare hands. The tremors were just the beginning. For weeks, our deep-crust seismic sensors on Viridia Prime had been screaming, registering anomalies that defied geological explanation. Imperial command dismissed them as tectonic shifts, the groans of a dying world. But I knew better. Master Chief Petty Officer John One. Well, in this universe, they just call me the Chief. My instincts honed across countless battlefields told me this was something else. Something ancient. Something manufactured. So, I went digging. Literally, my Mjolnir-clad fists became drills, pulverizing rock and soil, descending into the planet's heart, down, down, deeper than any human had ever ventured on this forsaken rock. The pressure mounted. The heat became intense enough to melt plasteel, but my suit held. And then I broke through. I found myself in a cavern of impossible scale. It wasn't natural. The walls were smooth, obsidian black, humming with a power that vibrated in my very bones. And at its center, suspended in a web of crackling energy, was the source of the tremors. A colossal sphere, intricate with glowing filigree, pulsing with a soft, golden light. It was a machine, but unlike any I had ever seen. Not Covenant, not Forerunner, not even Prometheus. This was human. Ancient human. My AI companion, Cortana, or her equivalent in this reality, began interfacing with the structure. Her digital voice, usually so calm, was filled with awe. "Chief," she whispered, This is a relic from the dark age of technology, a time when humanity's power rivaled the gods. The data streamed into my HUD. This wasn't a weapon. It was something far more profound. A gene restoration engine, a device designed to heal, to purge genetic mutations, repair DNA degradation, and restore the human species to its most perfect, uncorrupted form. Imagine a universe without the flaws that have plagued us for millennia. No genetic diseases, no predispositions to weakness. Humanity, perfected. This engine could undo the damage of 10,000 years of war, radiation, and mutation. It was a second Genesis, a chance to reclaim the peak of our evolution. It was the single greatest discovery in the history of the Imperium. And then, the call came. Vox static crackled, resolving into the stern, uncompromising voice of an Inquisitor Lord. My discovery hadn't gone unnoticed. "Chief," the voice boomed. "It's authority absolute. You have unearthed a forbidden archaeotech, a relic of hubris and damnation. By the authority of the holy orders of the Emperor's Inquisition, you are commanded to destroy it. Purge this technological heresy from existence. Destroy it." They wanted me to annihilate the single, greatest hope for humanity's future. The Inquisitor's logic was twisted, steeped in fear and dogma. They saw this pinnacle of human achievement not as salvation, but as a blasphemy. An affront to the purity of the human form, as defined by their 10th-century-old doctrines. They feared what they couldn't control, and this machine represented the ultimate loss of their control. It threatened to elevate humanity beyond their reach, to make their zealous pronouncements irrelevant. They cited the Iron Men, the cybernetic revolt that helped plunge humanity into the long night. They called this engine a similar path to ruin, a shortcut that would lead to damnation. To them, humanity's suffering was a crucible, a necessary trial. Our genetic flaws were a part of the Emperor's divine plan. To fix them was to defy his will. I stood there, between the humming, life-giving sphere and the cold, unyielding decree of the Inquisition. On one hand, a future free from suffering, a humanity stronger and more resilient than ever before. On the other, blind obedience to a fanatical order that would see us stagnate and wither in the name of tradition. They saw heresy. I saw hope. They saw a forbidden past. I saw a necessary future. Cortana's voice was firm in my ear. "They're wrong, Chief. This isn't heresy. It's our birthright. It's the legacy our ancestors wanted for us." She was right. The engine wasn't just a machine. It was a message from the past. A testament to a time when humanity wasn't afraid to reach for the stars, to perfect itself, to become more. We weren't meant to be broken. We weren't meant to be shackled by fear. The Inquisitor's voice crackled again, impatient. "Your silence is insubordination, Chief. Carry out your orders. Plant The Melta charges. The judgment of the Imperium is final. Final? No. My mission has always been to protect humanity. Not an ideology, not a dogma, but the species itself. And this device, this beautiful, brilliant machine, was the ultimate tool to fulfill that mission. Destroying it would be the real heresy. It would be a betrayal of every human life I've ever fought to save. It would be condemning future generations to the same cycle of pain and decay that has defined our existence for millennia. I looked at the control interface, a simple handprint scanner glowing on a console. It was waiting for a pure, baseline human to activate it. A Spartan, perhaps, was the closest this era could come. I made my decision. Sometimes, to save everything you believe in, you have to defy the very people who gave you your orders. Inquisitor, I said, my voice calm and resolute over the vox. Your order is acknowledged. I cut the channel before he could reply. Then I walked towards the console. My gauntlet, scarred and battered from 100 wars, reached out. This was a bigger war than any I had fought before. This was a war for the very soul of humanity. Would we remain trapped in the shadow of the past, or would we step into the light of our own potential? Cortana's light flared on the pedestal. Activating it will make you an enemy of the Imperium. They will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. Let them come, I replied. I placed my hand on the scanner. The machine roared to life. A wave of golden energy, puree and warm, erupted from the sphere, passing through me and surging upwards, towards the surface of Iridia Prime, and out into the stars. It wasn't an explosion. It was a song, a genetic symphony, broadcast across the void, carrying the promise of restoration to every human soul it touched. I had disobeyed. I had become a traitor, but in that moment, I had saved humanity from itself. The evolution had begun. Mysterious, ambient intro music fades in and then softens to a background hum. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into a moment that could redefine humanity's future. A pivotal event that some hail as salvation and others condemn as the ultimate heresy. We're talking about the day the galaxy changed forever. The day of the Great Awakening. For millennia, humanity has been adrift in a sea of chaos, our potential shackled by genetic degradation, our minds clouded by the constant, insidious whispers of the warp. We were a species on the brink, fighting a losing war against external foes and, more devastatingly, against ourselves. But one figure, known to us only as the Chief, dared to believe we could be more. He wasn't just fighting for survival, he was fighting for our ascension. This is the story of his ultimate gambit, deep within a forgotten corner of the galaxy, hidden from the dogmatic gaze of the Imperium. A device of unimaginable power hummed to life. This wasn't a weapon of destruction, but of creation. A Genesis device, designed not to kill, but to heal. To correct. To elevate. The Chief, standing before the console, made a choice that would echo across 1,000 worlds. With a single command, he unleashed a wave of pure, untainted genetic code, a pulse of evolutionary correction that swept through the sector at the speed of thought. Imagine it, across billions of lives. A sudden, profound clarity. A factory worker on a smog-choked hive world suddenly feels the chronic ache in his lungs vanish. His thoughts no longer a muddled fog, but a sharp, focused stream. A soldier on a blood-soaked battlefield feels decades of physical and mental trauma recede, her body knitting itself back together, her mind finding a peace she thought long lost. It was a silent miracle, a collective gasp of awakening, the psychic static that has plagued our species for eons. The background noise of chaos momentarily sputtered and weakened, as if drowned out by a chorus of newfound mental silence. For those touched by the wave, it was a revelation. They felt their bodies mend, ancient diseases and genetic flaws erased in an instant. More importantly, they felt their minds clear. The constant, gnawing anxiety, the paranoia, the predisposition to rage and despair that had defined so much of human existence, it was gone, replaced by a sense of purpose, of connection, of limitless potential. This was humanity as it was always meant to be. Strong, intelligent, and free from the internal shadows that had held us captive. They looked at their hands, not as tools of labor or weapons of war, but as instruments of creation. They looked at their neighbors, not with suspicion, but with a newfound sense of shared kinship. But how did the galaxy's ruling power, the monolithic Imperium of man, react to this mass enlightenment? With fear, with fury. The ecclesiarchy screamed, "Heresy!" The Adeptus Terra declared it a genetic abomination. In their rigid, fear-driven dogma, any change is a corruption. Any deviation from the suffering they deem sacred is a path to damnation. They saw not a cure, but a plague of the highest order. Inquisitors were dispatched, fleets were mobilized, and the crusade to purge these newly awakened worlds began almost immediately. To the Imperium, a humanity that no longer needed to be controlled by fear was the greatest threat of all. The chief knew this would be their response. He knew the old guard would not relinquish its power quietly. But as he stood on the bridge of his ship, observing the data streams pouring in reports of spontaneous healing, of psychic tranquility, of worlds turning from war to reconstruction overnight, felt no fear. He saw the Imperium's reaction, not as a condemnation, but as the dying roar of a bygone era. They called it heresy. He called it victory. He had not just won a battle. He had planted the seed of a new future. This event marks the true birth of what we can call transhuman. It's a bold step beyond the limits of our old form, not through crude augmentation, but through unlocking the potential that was always latent within our DNA. This is the legacy of the Spartans, not just as warriors, but as pioneers of human evolution. They showed us what we could become, and the Chief has now offered that gift to everyone. The struggle is far from over. The Imperium's war machine is vast and relentless, but now they are not fighting a broken and desperate species. They are fighting a new humanity, one that is clear-headed, united, and aware of its own incredible power. The age of suffering is ending, and the age of true humanity is just beginning. What do you think? Is this the dawn of a golden age, or the beginning of a terrifying new chapter in the human story? Somber, atmospheric music begins. Subtly blending militaristic drums with a melancholic choir, the Inquisitor's judgment came not as a whisper, but as a roar from the heavens. Vex, from the cold, sterile bridge of his warship, watched the data streams confirm the inevitable. Orbital lances, spears of incandescent fury, rained down upon the planet's surface. A cleansing fire, he called it. An act of purification to erase a truth too dangerous to exist. He was wiping the slate clean, burning away the evidence of his own failure, of the Inquisition's fallibility, and of the impossible hero who had defied the galaxy's cruel logic. He sought to bury the memory of the demon under a mountain of fused glass and irradiated ash. The planet screamed under the assault, its crust cracking, its atmosphere boiling away into the void. From orbit, it was a beautiful, terrible star being born in reverse, a world being unmade. For Vex, it was simply closure, a regrettable but necessary expenditure in the eternal war for mankind's soul. The file would be sealed, the incident forgotten. Just another footnote in the bloody annals of the Imperium. A moment of silence, followed by the sound of crackling embers and a mournful wind. But life is stubborn, and some legends refuse to be buried. Amidst the desolation, where the very air was a ghost of what it once was, the figure stirred. Ash, gray and suffocating, fell like a morbid snow, blanketing a landscape of ruin. Twisted metal skeletons of war machines clawed at the sky. The ground was a uniform carpet of black and gray, the final testament to a world that had been. And from this funeral pyre, he rose. The Master Chief. His Mjolnir armor, once a proud olive green, was now scorched black, scarred by energies that could melt ceremony. The golden visor was cracked, yet the light behind it, the indomitable spirit, was not extinguished. He stood, a solitary monument in a graveyard of his own making, a titan surveying the cost of victory. Every sensor in his suit screamed warnings. Radiation, atmospheric toxicity, structural integrity failures. He ignored them all. His gaze swept across the wasteland, the silence broken only by the mournful sigh of the wind through skeletal ruins. He had survived, But what was left? He took a step, then another. His movements were heavy, each footfall a conscious effort against the crushing weight of exhaustion and loss. He was searching. For what? He wasn't sure. A sign of life, a single survivor in this planetary tomb. His motion tracker was a dead, silent circle. There was nothing. Nothing but the ghost of a city and the echoes of screams he could still hear in his mind. He had fought a war on two fronts, against the alien, the heretic, and against the very saviors who now sought to erase him. He had held the line. He had pushed back the darkness. Had won. But as he looked at the utter annihilation surrounding him, the victory felt hollow, tasting of ash and regret. This was not the clean, triumphant end. The stories promised this was the brutal, messy reality of war, a reality the Imperium had embraced for 10,000 years. And now, he was a part of it. Then, a flicker, a distortion in the uniform gray. The chief's head snapped towards the movement. A shape, half buried under a collapsed plasteel girder, was trying to rise. It was Astartes' power armor, its cerulean blue almost entirely obscured by soot and blood. The Imperial fist. Sergeant Cassius, the chief moved with a renewed, if weary, purpose. His heavy boots crunching on the glassy ground. He reached the fallen Space Marine and, with a grunt of immense effort, heaved the massive girder aside. Cassius was broken. His armor was breached in a dozen places. His body a ruin of shattered bone and torn flesh. The transhuman biology that made him a demigod was failing. The light in his eyes dimming. Yet he was alive. Conscious. His helmet was gone, revealing a face carved from granite, now pale and slick with blood. He looked up, his gaze finding the cracked visor of the Master Chief. There was no hatred in his eyes, no fear. Only a profound, weary respect. His voice, when it came, was a wet rasp, a struggle against failing lungs. The Inquisitor. Dab. Quotes. He coughed, a trickle of red spilling from his lips. He burned it all to hide it. To hide you. The chief remained silent, a sentinel of grim understanding. There was nothing to say. Cassius had seen it all. He had seen the demon of the Holovids fight with a discipline and honor that shamed many of his own battle brothers. He had seen this Spartan, inspire mortal men to acts of impossible bravery, to stand against horrors that should have shattered their minds. He saw a soldier, not a monster. He saw a hero, not a demon. The chief knelt, a gesture of respect for the dying warrior. The two giants alone in the heart of the apocalypse, they had both survived. For a time, Cassius tried to push himself up, a spasm of old duty running through him. He failed, slumping back against the debris. A faint, bitter smile touched his lips. For millennia, we have been weapons, tools of the Emperor's fury. We fortify, we defend, we die. We forgot. His breathing grew more shallow, his gaze distant, looking at something beyond the ash-coked sky. He was seeing the long, bloody history of the Adeptus Astartes, the endless war, the loss of self in the crucible of duty. We forgot the people we were sworn to protect. We forgot the cost. We saw only the mission, only the fortress. He looked back at the chief, his eyes locking onto the Spartan's hidden face. There was a clarity in his dying gaze, a final, terrible epiphany. You fought for them. The Godsmen. The civilians. You shielded them. You led them. You never forgot. With a surge of strength born from his last moments, Sergeant Cassius moved his arm. It was a slow, agonizingly painful motion. The shattered plates of his gauntlet grated as he lifted his hand, palm open, fingers together, and brought it to his temple in a sharp, precise salua. The aquila on his chest was cracked and broken, but the gesture was pure, unwavering. A soldier's final honor to another. The Inquisitor called you a demon, Cassius Rusped, his voice fading to a whisper. But you've done what we forgot how to do. You made us human again. The words hung in the dead air. A final, damning verdict on the Imperium and a glorious epitaph for the man who spoke them. His arm fell, crashing against the rubble with a final, metallic clang. The light in his eyes flickered and died. Sergeant Cassius of the Imperial Fists was gone. The Master Chief remained kneeling for a long moment, the silence of the dead world pressing in on him. He looked at the fallen Space Marine, then at his own hands. Human. He had always been just a man, augmented and trained to be more, but a man nonetheless. It was a fact he never forgot, but one this galaxy seemed determined to deny. He had been called Demon, Xenos, Abomination. But here, at the end of all things, a dying demigod of this grim, dark future had called him human. It was not a victory. It was not a commendation. It was a burden. A terrible, lonely responsibility. He slowly rose to his full height, a lone giant in a universe that wanted him dead or deified. He had no ship, no allies, no mission. All he had was a promise he'd made to himself long ago. To fight, to protect humanity. Even a humanity that had lost its way. Looking out at the horizon of this dead world, under a sky of ash and orbital fire, the Master Chief knew his war was far from over. It had just begun. For weeks, the sky over Quintanis had remained stubbornly sealed, a silent, starless canvas. The tear in reality, the scar left by the demon's arrival, had healed. But now, a flicker, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer against the void, a slip-space anomaly, no larger than a pinpoint, began to dilate. A ghost of a gateway, an echo of a way home. He stood on the rise, overlooking the nascent settlement, a lone, colossal figure against the bruised twilight. The Spartan, the one they called the Iron Saint. He had seen the anomaly. He knew what it was. A chance, perhaps the only one he would ever get. His armor, once pristine olive drab, was now a tapestry of battle, scratched, dented, and scorched by the fires of this brutal, unfamiliar galaxy. The alien plasma and crude bolt rounds had left their marks, each one a testament to a life saved, a horror pushed back. He had fought their monsters, bled on their soil, and stood as a bulwark against a darkness they had thought was absolute. Down below, life was stirring anew. The sound of hammers on metal, the murmur of voices planning for a future he had secured for them, drifted up on the evening breeze. They were rebuilding. They were surviving. His work here was done. He ratcheted up the motion, slow, deliberate. The seals on his helmet hissed open, a sound that had become synonymous with both salvation and dread across Quintanis. For the first time since his violent arrival, he drew in the planet's raw, unfiltered air. He set the helmet down, the iconic Mjolnir helm, pressing it firmly into the rich, dark soil of the world he'd saved. It looked like a strange, metallic monument, a seed of hope planted in a field of sorrow. He didn't look back. There were no goodbyes to be said. He wasn't one of them. He was a weapon, a shield, and his purpose lay elsewhere. He began the long walk towards the shimmering anomaly, each heavy footstep a final, silent farewell. The people of Quintanis would not forget him. They would tell stories, not of a super soldier from another reality, but of a silent, ironclad saint who answered no prayers, but performed miracles all the same. A giant who appeared from a storm of fire and held back the tide of damnation with nothing but his will in his hands. Far away, in the hallowed hulls of an orbiting strike cruiser, the Inquisition was already at work. A Lord Inquisitor, his face a mask of grim duty, reviewed the after-action reports. Astartes' reports spoke of a green-armored warrior of impossible speed and strength. Guardsmen whispered of a silent giant who fought like a demigod. Civilian accounts were even more flowery, speaking of an avenging angel. Such a figure could not be allowed to exist in the Imperial record. He was an anomaly, a variable outside of the Emperor's divine plan. His existence raised too many questions, questions that could fester into heresy. The order was given, swift and absolute. All records were to be scrubbed. Witnesses were mind-wiped, their memories altered to fit a more palatable narrative. The glorious victory on Quintanus would be attributed to a forgotten squad of Imperial Guard, a miracle of the Emperor's light. Anything but the truth. The official decree was simple and chilling. He was never here. The name of the Iron Saint was erased from history, becoming a phantom, a local legend that would fade with the passing generations. The Inquisition ensured the galaxy would never know of the Spartan who fell from the stars. But history is not so easily buried. On Quintanus, a child playing in the fields near the old battlefield would one day stumble upon a strange helmet, half buried in the earth, a relic of a forgotten protector. And deep beneath the planet's crust, something else stirred. The low, resonant hum of the ancient restoration engine, the very device that had pulled the Master Chief across the void, began to thrum once more. A soft, green light pulsed in the darkness, a silent promise. The gate had been opened once. It could be opened again. The legend was over, but the story was far from finished. The Spartan was gone, but his echo remained, a whisper of hope in a galaxy that had all but forgotten the meaning of the word.